You all so much for being here. For those who I haven't met, my name is Debbie Jordan, and I am your district board member, I was newly elected in November, but I am here and I am yours. Just so you know who I am. And I really would like to, this is our first board community forum, and we are planning on doing many more. We asked everybody to sign in, so that way we would have your emails, so that way we can keep you abreast of what is taking place. I'd like to take a second to thank Mrs. Freeman and her team for all the hard work here at Franklin Park. So could we please give them a hand? Okay. And we know your time is valuable, so we want to try to keep this moving. And I also want to recognize, please, one of my colleagues, Miss Mary Fisher, who's in the back. Hi, Mary. Okay, so at this time, I would like to introduce Mrs. Michelle Freeman to come up and say a few words.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome, welcome. I'd like to thank everyone for showing up and coming to listen to the wonderful things that Dr. Atkins and Ms. Jordan is going to talk about this evening. And we definitely thank you for all of your support. And we will talk with some more a little later, correct? Yes.
Thank you. And at this time, Dr. Shirley Chapman, if we can have her please speak.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. It's good to be here. And I'm letting you know right now, I'm disappointed that the place is not running over. That's right. It's gotten to a point where we need to be concerned. I'm talking about parents now. We need to be concerned about our own children. We're going to do all we can to impact and make a difference, but we really can do more when we get parents on board. I'm glad to be here, and I am glad to see those persons who thought it not robbery to be here. And if you have any concerns when it comes to your children, I know I'm just here to do a welcome, but I just want to get this in. If you have some concern concerning your children, your grandchildren, your nephew, niece, whoever, and you don't feel comfortable enough to voice it, then write it down. That's why you had the sheet. Write it down and pass it on to somebody else. And somebody else will be glad to read it for you. Because we want to impact and make a difference in Lee County school system. We want a lot of things to change and get better. And the only way that's going to happen is if we know about it. And I'm just glad to be here, and I'm glad to see the faces that I see. And I'm expecting great things from this point forward. Have a good evening.
Okay, I just want to back up 1 second. This community forum is co-sponsored by the Lee County School District and the Lee County NAACP branch 5110. So if we could even have the NAACP branch please stand up who is here so that way people understand who you are as well. Right, okay. Thank you. And at this time, I would ask Dr. Atkins to come up and share some words with you. Dr. Atkins.
Thank you. Good evening, and I just want to echo what everyone else has said. Just thank you so much for being here. It's very important. You know, one of the things that I think is critical to the success of our children is the collaboration among different organizations that represent Lee County. So I'm really appreciative of the folks in the NAACP because they have been very strong partners with the school district in helping us improve our district so that we have better educational opportunities for all children. And so when you hear Dr. Chapman get up there and speak and talk about the importance of involvement, she couldn't be more on point, because the success of children requires really all of us working together. And let's face it, you know, some of our parents and our community members aren't as involved as they need to be. And I think we need to try to work to get them involved, because kids that are successful in school, it does truly take all of us getting together to help them out. I mean, these kids today have to compete not just within our little local community, but they have to compete across the world. And our job is to give them the very best education that we possibly can. And we're only going to be able to do that working together. So that's why I'm so happy to be in this partnership, because they, believe me, they are truly committed to making improvement here in Lee County. And if we had more people like them, we would absolutely have the very best school district in the nation, if not the world. And I think that we can do that if we just build upon what we have here as a foundation. Now this evening, what we'd like to do, most of this is really to support you and the questions that you have, but we do have some news about Franklin Park and specifically about the school district that we would like to share with you, so we'll start with that, and then we will get right to those questions. So this part will be pretty quick. First of all, you've got a remarkable success story right here at Franklin Park Elementary School. Proud to be a Panther is absolutely a great motto, and if you look, I think the next slide shows us all the things that this school has been able to accomplish. So look at this increase of 48 school grade points. That's fantastic. That's a great job. And ELA, the lowest 25%, these are the kids that really need the most. And to increase this by 30% is quite a remarkable achievement. All of the subgroups meeting their targets, and we saw also an increase of 20% in their math lowest 25% gain. So that's phenomenal. All right, and I love this slide because this slide shows you the journey that Franklin Park has taken in just the most recent history. And we've got actually Dr. Quisenberry's in the room. If you could stand up. Your former principal here and started this journey. And then, of course, you know about Michelle Freeman. So between the two of this dynamic duo, look at what success we've had here. And if you look at the numbers, we've got 49 elementary schools in our district, and so you started at 45, okay? And then you see where as the grading system in the state got more difficult, the grade dropped down to, actually it was an F school for a couple years in a row, and then the journey started up. And I know that here we are already a B school, which is phenomenal, on the way to the A, right? Yes. On the way to the A. So I'm going to turn this over to Dominic right now. He's going to talk a little bit about, we did just pass a half-penny sales tax referendum, which is taking really some great needed dollars and investing them back into the facilities for our students, technology for our students, security for our students. He'll talk a little bit about that and how that affects this particular school in general. So Dominic.
Thank you, Dr. Atkins. I'm going to walk us through our Castaldi process. And I'm going to tell you what a Castaldi is first, because it doesn't sound like it means anything important other than probably somebody's last name at one point. So a Castaldi process is what the school district must do to ask permission from the State Department of Education to take down buildings. So to remove building, a building, several buildings, an entire campus, that's what we have to do is get permission from the state. So what we are going to do, or what we have already done, as you can see on the slide up here, in 2017, we did prepare our first Castaldi for this site. We updated that again in 2019. In 2019, we took it to the board in June. The board approved the Castaldi. The Castaldi has been sent to the Department of Education. Today, the Department of Education came here to the site. Principal Freeman, myself, and staff walked the DOE representative around the campus, showing them what our needs were for this campus to make it to the next step in the process. So we did some good work today. We got some I's dotted and some T's crossed moving forward to give them what they're going to need for the next step. The timeline going forward, as you can see, we're back on the last slide. We're hoping that we will have an approval from the DOE before Thanksgiving break to move forward with rebuilding Franklin Park Elementary. So once we do get that approval, that's when we go into scope and campus design, and that's when we look for the community engagement to help us along with that. So there's a couple of steps. We need to evaluate the campus and community programs that might be available here to the families. So we are looking at possibilities of daycare, healthcare, even ideas with other family programs that could be on this campus along with our school. That along with the idea of the campus and this capacity. Right now, Franklin Park's a small community school. Do we want Franklin Park to stay a small community school, or do we want Franklin Park to be a larger school? That's another thing that needs to be discussed. We also have security measures, which we've done a lot of things in the last year, and we'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later. But most of our schools are single building schools where all the students are generally kept inside the buildings. So that is one of the things that we would discuss as part of the scope of the new school. From that point, once we get to the design phase, which is next, where we would have an architect and have our design, then we would go into a construction phase and build the school. And then with the timeline the way it looks, we could have a new school open in August of 2023. The next slide talks about the $250,000 that was spent during last school year on security for this campus. So that was a large capital investment. So when you think about, well, we're talking about taking down this whole campus, but we're still going to take care of the students that are here now today. So we're not looking at allowing any disrepair or whatnot. And you can look around here, I don't think anybody sees something that's in disrepair. District takes good care of our properties, and we do that right up to the day we close the doors, and the students come back to a new school. So thank you.
So, you know, one of the things that I think that we really have an exciting opportunity to think about in terms of the possibilities here on this campus. I think that it's well known now that the city is looking to do some investment in this area as well, really right here in this neighborhood. And so if you think about being able to partner with the city of Fort Myers in terms of providing some real community services here on this campus, as well as really doing some redevelopment up this street. And then right up the road, of course, we have the state-of-the-art Dunbar High School. So just think of what this could mean really for this community to develop this school, rebuild this school, partner with the city to provide services for the community. You've got the redevelopment going on across the street, and of course right down the street from Dunbar High School. So I think a real educational center could happen right here as a result of some of the dollars that we're going to be able to invest in this particular community. All right, well, I do have some slides that go into from similar investments in some of our other schools, but I think a lot of people here are specific to Franklin Park and maybe the needs of the community and the children. So really at this time, that's all the presentation part. What we would like to do now is to open it up to your questions and be able to just answer. So whatever's on your mind, we're here, we've got staff here, I'm here, board members are here. So we're here to answer whatever questions that you might have.
At this time, if anyone does have any questions and you have written them out, could you please hold them up so we can collect them? Mr. Morgan is going to go through them and sort them out so we know how to ask have the questions be told. So does anyone have any that are written down? No questions?
I'd like to ask, what will the new Franklin Park look like?
Yeah.
I know everybody wanted to ask that.
Yeah. That's a very good question. So basically, if you saw Dominic's process, one of the parts of that process is engaging an architecture. And when we engage the architecture, then we do work with, we have a construction advisory council that also works with our facility team in terms of the design of what that would look like. Right now, if you just ask me what would be the vision, what the school district has been doing is it's building one large building as opposed to open buildings like we have here. And the reason why we're doing that today is because it's easier to manage from a security perspective. So you have a single point of entry. and everybody goes through that single point, and you cannot get to other parts of the building. So if you look at some of our prototypes, that would be where we would start the conversation regarding design of the building. So if you're familiar with just some of those, I think our latest one was Tortuga Preserve. If you've been out to Tortuga, River Hall, Tree Line, those give you an example of what those prototypes look like.
While everybody's thinking about what they want to really ask, we're going to have Mrs. Freeman come up and share some of the stuff that's going on here at Franklin Park with the alumni.
I was just telling Jared Edie, I said, you got to give people a chance to think of something after the presentation. They started asking for cards. We got to give you a minute to think. So a couple of things that's going to be going on in the near future here. In October, we have our Fall Festival. I hope to see all of you out for that. And we will be collecting donations of candy for that night. But the one that I'm most excited about is January 24. Please put that in your phones, put that on your calendars. That is the Franklin Park Alumni Night. So if you went here, if you taught here, if you were a principal here, whatever your job was here in this building, we are inviting you out that night. We want everyone to come here and have a good time. We're gonna play some music and just socialize. So please make sure you put that on your calendar, and that's gonna be 5:30 to 7:30 on January 24th. February 20th is Black History Month. That is our read-in. So put that one on your calendar as well, because we invite you back here to read to our children on that day. That is the 20th of February. And we also take donations of multicultural books. So please start buying us some books and bringing them on in and dropping them off. And our last one is May 18th through the 22nd. That is our College and Career Week. So keep looking on our Facebook, Twitter. What else do we have, Ms. Hunter? Instagram. If you are a parent of a child here, Dojo, we are just putting it out anywhere that we can. And we thank you all for coming out and supporting us. Yes, sir.
Mr. Freeman, I am a graduate of Franklin Park Elementary School.
Okay, so anybody that graduated or came that went to Franklin Park, please stand up. Oh, look at this. Look, thank you for showing up. Look, family in the house. Yes. Oh, excuse me, Franklin Park Middle in the house as well. If you are one of my staff, please stand. Please look around. These are my fabulous teachers and my staff here. We could not have gotten that big without my teachers, my custodians, my kitchen staff, anybody that was here. And I want to say my volunteers. Ms. Lawrence.
Yes!
Ms. Campbell.
I just got to say this because I think I topped them all. When this school was brand new, elementary school was through 6th grade. That 6th grade year, the very first year, I was a speaker for commencement exercise at Franklin Park. Then I turned around and came back and was also a teacher.
Yes, ma'am. Uh-oh. We telling stories up in here. Hold on, let me go over here now. You can't talk her, I'm just telling you, but you can go and tell us.
I had Miss Chapman, or Dr. Chapman, back when she was Miss Wright. In the 7th grade.
And what was the name of my classroom?
I was going to tell her what I did remember. What I did remember was Roll Up Under Hear My Cry.
Yes.
And Sam Cooke. What a wonderful world this would be.
See, these are the stories we are looking forward to in January. So please make sure you have that on your calendars. So I think that's...
Wait a minute, Ms. Freeman.
Oh,
She just has something she really would love to share.
okay, well, I'm bringing the mic over here, hold on.
Come on, put me on the spot. No, I saw the T-shirt out front. They were taking pictures, so I asked about the T-shirt. I was bringing her my money so I could buy a T-shirt. So, hey, y'all, get your $10 out.
My babies need t-shirts. We got a bunch of t-shirts on Fridays. My children get the opportunity to wear their t-shirts and they wear them proud. And as you know, sometimes it's hard to put two $5 bills together and make $10. So anybody that would like to write us a check, please make that check out to Franklin Park. Or if you would like to give us some dead presidents, we'll take them as well. I am going to turn this over.
Thank you. I want to recognize, please, Councilwoman Tara Lane Watson just entered, so I want to give her hands up. Thank you, Tara. And of course, Secretary Area as well. The first question, we have some questions that have come in, and some are duplicate questions. So the one is, where will students go during the building of the new Franklin Park?
Okay, very similar to a lot of our rebuilds. What we typically do is we try to locate the students as close to the original campus as we can. Fortunately, in this case, we do believe we have space. I'm looking at Dominic to make sure I'm on track here. We do believe we have space here on our property at Franklin Park, so it's probably, what we'll probably do is put a group of portables here, and students will be in portables for the year and a half or so of construction, and then they'll be moved into the building. And I will tell you that the portables, I know it sounds like, oh man, portables, but you know, we did this most recently at Tice Elementary, and you know, Tice Elementary, it turned out to be a really, I think a really fantastic rebuild, and you'd be surprised at what they could do with modular buildings. We literally had a cafeteria and office space, and then you had classrooms, and you could have covered walkways and things like that. So we really try to make them, and to tell you the truth, that's how I started. I started my teaching career here in Lee County in a portable, and it's actually the portable that had been a school for about 8 years. So not always the best, but actually, you know, what they're doing with portables, I think is pretty good with the technology you see today. We did the same, very similar thing when we were rebuilding parts of Dunbar High School as well. And also, we typically stage schools like we're going to be building the new MMM, and we're staging that one at Lehigh Seniors campus. And then very similar to what we did with Bonita Springs High School, which was staged at Esteros campus.
Is there any other option other than portables?
Not at this time. Even if you did move them to another campus, you would likely have to use some portables. I mean, we have looked at capacity in other buildings, but we really don't have that type of capacity here. And even if you did, you'd be transporting them a fairly significant distance from this community into another one, and that also compounds you with some issues that come up with transportation, because those routes have been really set, and to do that takes a lot of effort for very little payback, if any.
So Dr. Atkins, will the entire campus be level?
That's what we're hoping to do, yes. I think Dominic is probably the better person to answer this question, but I'll try my best. What we do have on this campus, we have some older buildings and then we have some newer buildings. So what we believe is that in the best interest of the school is to rebuild the entire site, because then the architect can really do a lot with the design. We think we can make a safer school that way because we can bring it under one roof. There are some newer buildings on campus, and they're not as keen on tearing down new buildings, but we think we have a good case. I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to add to that.
Well, like today, we did have the DOE person here today, and we did take those 3 buildings. One's the front office, one is the library, and the other one is one classroom building that were built in the 90s. So those are the in question buildings. The rest of the buildings really aren't in question. Our goal is to be able to start with a clean slate and build one school without having to incorporate the other buildings. Incorporating the buildings is not going to stop us from moving forward, though. If we have to, we'll have to keep a building or two. If we do, we'll work around it in some way. It's not going to stop us from rebuilding Franklin Park.
Right.
We get rid of the buildings in past, enrollment and international.
I'm sorry, what was that question?
What impact of, getting rid of all the buildings and buildings from scratch have on enrollment?
What impact will leveling the building and rebuilding?
What impact will leveling the present buildings have on enrollment? Will all students who are coming here still get to come here? Will it drop, will it increase?
Yes, I think the question would be, it would certainly, every student who would be currently enrolled, like the current student enrollment at the school we still could handle that. The question moving forward that we still need to work on an answer is, as we're rebuilding a facility, do we build it bigger than this current building and house a growing population? So that's the unanswered question at this time, because a lot of these prototype buildings, they can house 1,000 kids.
And Dr. Atkins, that segues into the next question as well. It says, how is the decision made on whether FPE stays a small school or builds in capacity?
Right, that is a decision that's really twofold. I think one is that we internally come up with some recommendations based on basically our student growth patterns in the district. So where do we need capacity in the school district? And that is obviously where we see the most students in terms of student population. So if there's not a need for making a larger building here, then you would probably keep that about the same size. If you, for example, if you need more capacity out down south or out east. So that's something that Dominic's team does. And then as we're moving forward, we do go to district advisory committees like our Equity and Diversity Advisory Committee. We also go to a Construction Advisory Committee. And then we also have not site selection, we wouldn't have to do that one, but it would also be going to the board for public, for the public to hear.
Dr. Atkins, what is the current capacity here at Franklin Park?
Just under 600.
Just under 600 right now. So like I said, the newer prototypes typically are built between 800 and 1,000. But we're still looking to see if we need that capacity here, because we could make adjustments.
Secondly, to that question, what has the growth been here at Franklin Park over the past few years? Has it been growing exponentially or?
Not in this area. Again, he's the expert, but in here within kind of the closer into the center of Fort Myers, we don't see as much student growth. You actually see a bit of an aging population here. And a lot of the new student growth that we see predominantly is in the east and in the south. And I think that housing drives that piece. So that's what we've noticed as trends. And I don't know, you look at this data all the time. So this is truly the expert here.
That is truly what our trends have shown us. We've been relatively flat in the center of Fort Myers in regards to growth. The population of this school has been pretty steady at the number that it's been at. I think we're just under 500 here, I believe.
We're at 460.
So we're not at capacity here technically. So we've been kind of steady. We pretty much have almost the same size class coming in here each year for the last several years. So the decision if we need to go bigger or not will depend a lot on where our growth trends are going to be in the next 2 to 3 years and where we are here now.
Okay, and then also along with that, we have a question is, if we are in portables, will classroom sizes be the same?
The answer to that question would be yes. I mean, these portables are designed to meet the requirements of our class size. So whenever we purchase or lease portables, we're going to look for portables that definitely have the capacity to meet the classroom needs of our students. In the state of Florida, as you know, K2 is 18, and then 4-8 is 22. So the classroom space would be built to be a little bit larger than that, so portable school leads would match, be in alignment with those requirements. We wouldn't be allowed to do anything but that.
Councilwoman has a question.
Yes, good evening. Thank everybody for coming. I would like to thank everybody for coming out. Dr. Atkins, my question is any part of the building going to be preserved for a historical monument? Who decided that? And
Well, I think that's a very good question, and I'm sure that is something that if that is something that the community desires that we do, that we would certainly take that up with the architecture and the design. We've done that in the past with buildings, preserve a piece of the architecture for the future as we do a rebuild, so that's something we can certainly look at, yes. And I don't know, I don't want to put you on the spot, Councilwoman, but I was talking earlier about really the partnership with the city of Fort Myers, and I know the renovation or the community planning that you're doing in this neighborhood and how we could partner here at this school. And I don't know if there's anything else that you could add to that, but I was letting them know a little bit about that, those plans.
okay, well, certainly, we do plan to partnership with the school district in any way we can help. I'm certainly at your convenience at any time. We can get with Said and set up a meeting, and I definitely will be looking forward to the meeting, and yes, we'll help in any way possible with the city.
All right.
And one other thing, I would like to thank Ms. Shirley Percy. She's been an advocate for the schools and the Dunbar community ever since I got on council and since I've known her, actually. She's been advocating for Franklin Park and all the schools. I would like to thank her so much for being the advocate for us, Ms. Shirley. You don't know how much I really appreciate you for that.
And I think what Dr. Atkins was referring to as well, we have Southwood Village, they're working on that with the Housing Authority, the City of Fort Myers, and the Lee County School District. So collectively, all together, we are working as one unit to try to make sure that we are watching over this area and the neighborhoods. And along with that is, daycares, what is it that the people who live here, what do you want? What do you see? And that is coming back up in October, those meetings and that conversation. I know we'll be included in that as well. The school district will be there, as well as the City of Fort Myers and the Housing Authority.
Okay, I'm glad everybody came in support and everything, but this school is not just this school. All our history schools, good Lord had put this on my heart. I lose sleep wrestling, listening at things and seeing things. And when you said that the number of the kids will probably stay like this because most of them is out south and out east, that's not true. You got a lot of babies over here. And for some reason, I told this in the board meeting, Dr. Atkins, and Miss Debbie, and Miss Fisher, that my grandbaby mom tried to get him over here to pre-K. You guys have somebody, 2 Spanish ladies over there, lying to the African-American moms and parents, the daddies, saying this place is full. And it's not full.
Over in what place are you
And I
referring
said
to?
this in the board meeting. And nobody's being honest with the people in this community, because we got a lot of babies here, and you all sending them babies way out to Harlem, down south, in Lehigh, and buses do come here and pick up these children. We don't have no middle school. And God knows, when Gateway don't want Dr. Martin Luther King name in their district, but you got James Stevens sitting over there empty. We don't have no middle schools no more. And we have middle school kids right here in this area being busted, taking the choices away. And you stand there and say, for some reason, it's sort of not no kids. Now when Dr. Brower was superintendent in the NAACP meeting at St. John, the question was asked by Pastor Bailey, why is all these schools? He said the same thing you said, and you said, for some reason, they down south, they down east, and in Cape, and it's a standstill here. Another hand went up, and this man asked, is it because most of them are illegal? Dr. Atkins said, almost slipped and stumbled. He said, yes, but they got to go to school. And I told you, Miss Debbie, on the phone, wait, Michigan Montessori poster man, I says, a lot of pastors and their congregations had signed petitions after Dr. Brown left. And it's like Mexico City. I said, we don't need this in our area. And they signed petitions. If you're not going to build no school, leave it like this. You cripple our community with drugs and everything. The police will be over there driving by, even now, because they say that's what's going to take place. And they have, it's like Mexico City said and Sunday. If you're not going to build nothing educational for our kids, no school, build something educational for the high school and the middle school young men during the summer.
If I may,
so they can have something educational.
when you and I had that conversation, we were speaking of Marsh Avenue.
Yes.
Yes, and I went over there and
And they're still there.
they are still there and they rent that space. And we are working with, trying to do that with other, is that correct or not, with other facilities to have the community be able to utilize, because we are all taxpayers.
Yeah, but hey, that's not happening over your area. I'm saying, why put all that, and I asked her, why is she putting it, with this, her school, she can do what she wants. I said, this is our community. See, the school board's supposed to be something, education, but over in our area, it's like y'all put junk over here, and these kids, we said, this is the hood, right farm. I have things in my purse with all our schools, with good schools. God knows we had good school, good teachers. They dressed like they was going to church, and we was not no bad kids. And you, out of all places, you guys put Royal Palm where our history lies. And you should renovate that and give us a respect our history. I go to the courthouse and people look like you guys. They honor and respect our history. They put our stuff up in it now. Our kids don't even know this our history is good history. You guys in leadership made it bad. You want the councilors to work with you and things around here. When is y'all gonna do better with what y'all do great wrong? I heard somebody say, stop the bullying. If you see something, say something. That's bullying when you made Royal Palm, when it was a history good school. With good kids. We was not bad kids.
Okay, may I, if you, and I apologize, you and I have had that conversation. I just came off of it in November. I do live not too far from this neighborhood, so I am very much a part of this neighborhood. I'm right by Fort Myers Middle, so I've seen the changes over the years, as well as everyone else has. But Dominic does have information regarding the first issue that you had brought up regarding the children and the pre-K. He has that because that's what he has done.
So you telling me that they're going to continue to be over there because they paying her over there to James Stevens, what the pastors in the congregations, we did petitions with after Dr. Brown left, it means nothing. They could be over there.
You're talking about the soccer teams?
Yes.
The soccer teams play there, the soccer teams play in the villas as well?
I'm saying, but Dr. Atkins, you was there when Dr. Brown was there. And I see, you guys not gonna build no school. You're gonna cripple our community with drugs and the first thing something go wrong, you're gonna put on people look like me. I said, if you're not gonna build our school, leave it like that. You was there. Time Dr. Brown left, everything been all up in there.
Well, the people that live over in the Marsh Avenue
The
area,
schools supposed to, anything you do, it's supposed to be education. I said, it's not for grown people, it's for kids. That's what I told Dr. Brown. Things something for kids, not for grown people to make a mess. And then something go bad, it's on us. The only time it got quiet was when they thought ICE was coming, and it was like Palm Beach was like ghost town.
well,
I'm just telling you, I'm being honest. It was nice. I'm just being honest, and I'm not being Honey, it's just wrong. It's wrong, and you know it's wrong. Well, it's not gonna happen over there to where you stay, Dr. Atkins. You know that. Because you don't have the community complaint. Gateway already was on the news saying they don't want Dr. Martin Luther King name because it may mess with
Property back.
they property value. Just having his
I
name.
just wanted to come back.
And y'all honoring it. Am I right? You said yes, but y'all honoring
We have a lot, and no disrespect, but as far as the naming of the school, we have a process that we are going through for that. So we will be doing that. And as far as the Marsh Avenue, the people who live in that neighborhood as well utilize that field. There are families over there. I did what you asked. I did go over there. I went over there twice, and I spoke with the families. There was no one doing drugs. There was nothing like that taking place. There were families out there doing a family day and playing soccer. And then I did do a follow-up like you had asked to make sure that it wasn't a freebie. So people are paying, just as they do soccer over at, where is that at? Fort Myers Middle. Fort Myers Middle, they play soccer over at Tanglewood. So soccer is huge and they play everywhere. And if we can have families come in and play and have a safe venue for them, I think that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. But Dominic does have the answer for you regarding the pre-K that you had asked about very first. Dominic, would you please answer that?
Sure. So earlier we talked a little bit about the capacity here at the school. So the capacity or the maximum number of students that the facility can handle is one thing. The next step we do is when we staff the school with teachers and support staff, it's set to a certain number. We don't want to exceed necessarily the number of students in a classroom. So even though there may be physical space here, there may not be another teaching unit to absorb more students. So that's why we have several schools that are chosen from in the area when one school is full. So it may not be full when we talk about overall capacity of the school, but when it's how the school has been resourced with the number of teachers and support staff, it could very well be full.
So how can you change the
Pre-K, I wanted to just ask you a question. Was that, ma'am, with the pre-K, was that a 4-year-old that you were trying to enroll?
So how can you
His mom was.
His mom?
My granddaughter, but then I found out, they kept saying it's school. So I called the school, and the school says, go back over there. I goes back over there. And then this lady says, I says, could you tell me the waiting list? We can't tell you that. Every school will tell you the waiting list. We can't tell you in this school. So she goes back there and get another one. And then she says the same thing. I just pulling out, everybody tell you it's a waiting list. So she stands like this and says, it's for foster kids. And I can't tell you this, but these foster kids only what the foster kids have to come to this school. I said, foster kids, do you know it's a history school? They said,
Was this the early childhood center on Michigan?
that's where you have to go on Michigan for pre-K. And they the one goes into Point Memphis, but in charge
No, it's
of the
Success
pre-K for
Academy.
Franklin Park Elementary. So that's why you don't get a lot of kids here, because they get turned away by being lied to, say this school is full, when it's not full. And some parents are young, they waiting and care because they say they want a nice school. And because this school is so messed, overlooked, deliberately, for almost 61 years, bathrooms like this, and schools gonna come up, we got almost like 100 and some schools in everywhere. You guys, history schools are being rebuilt, Jacob, Edgewood, renovated, now Norfolk Academy, and Erickson Park, all of our history schools, they're still standing. But this school has never had nothing done to it. It is like, now you say it'd be like 4 more years before this school come up. And now they already started on Gateway High and started 13.some million with these guys. And, but he said he was moving and tracking grass and nothing, but it's going to be 4 more years.
Well, and I'm just gonna, I'll be candid with you. first of all, the good news is that we did have the half-penny sales tax referendum, which gives us the opportunity and the ability to do this. So I think that's a positive thing, and we're able to invest in this school, as well as we've got other schools that I can show you here as well that are within this particular area that we're making pretty significant investment. The other thing that we have to realize, though, we have to make sure that we have a seat for all children, and you try to get those seats where you're really close to where the population of that group of students are living. And so in the case of Gateway, that particular piece of property, we have every single one of our schools out there, Riverdale, Lehigh Senior High School, East Lee County High School, and also Dunbar, all serve East Lee County, and they're all over capacity in terms of their seats. In fact, we just opened up a new wing on Lehigh Senior High School that expanded that capacity from 1,800 up to 2,500. So that's now, become your largest high school just to take care of that. So you have to prioritize. You have seats here that are here, and so we're working on rebuilding this school. You don't have any seats over there, and you've got to put seats there. The other thing that I want to talk about, besides the reason those decisions are made, something that again, this is something where we would like community support. I'm just, again, going to get real. Lee County, this is a parent thing. Lee County has only 6 districts in the entire state of Florida where the kindergarten readiness is lower. And those are 6 small, poor, rural districts. So what that means is when we're sending our kids to school, that our kids come into kindergarten, take the kindergarten readiness test, and we have one of the highest percentages of kids not ready for kindergarten in the entire state of Florida. So when you see the job that Michelle Freeman and her staff do, understand that they take in kids that have more of a challenge. They're not ready as they should be compared to the rest of the state. So her fee is even more remarkable than theirs. Here's what I think we as a community need to do about that. So this is something where Dominic is very involved in. We do have buildings, like we mentioned James Stephens, where we do have opportunity to expand pre-K education in Lee County. So this year, it's part of our strategic plan. The board is very supportive of this. We would like to expand pre-K so that we can make sure that our kids are more ready for kindergarten than they currently are. So we can go, and we saw this at Pinellas County. Pinellas County went to work on pre-K, and now they have one of the most kindergarten ready groups of kids in the whole state of Florida. We can get there if we decide in the community that we want to make a difference. Because one of the best things you can do for a kid is get them off to a good start in school. But we've got to deal with this Lee County as an issue. This isn't just a school district. This is a community issue. But we're really willing to be. We want to be partners in this, but we definitely need help. So.
And then also, that is one of our legislative issues as well, for the state as well as for the local issue. But go back to the questions. How are you letting the community know about the community forums? The forums are a great idea, but we just, how do you plan to build on this?
Well, I'm certainly open to suggestions. One of the things that we do is we do advertise this quite a bit on our website. Our chief of staff, Lauren Stillwell, who was here, I think she's here somewhere.
That doesn't work for me.
But had to step out, but she'll be back. If we have suggestions for how to do that better, let us know. It's out on the website. We also send it out to schools and hopefully get that out through our parent communications that way. We've also working with the NAACP. I know that they work to get the word out as well. So again, I'm open to suggestions on that, but that's how we did to this point.
That doesn't work as well.
Yeah, and we will be reaching out to the different churches as well. It's a great idea. I know that I personally have been going to different groups and organizations throughout Lee County, and especially over like Dunbar Core, the Collaboratory, just different places over here, and letting people know that this forum was taking place. I'm willing to even knock on doors, walk down the streets if I have to knock on doors. I know that some of the people who work here actually did do that, went out into the community to invite people to come here. So we definitely want this to work. We want to make sure that everybody is aware. And I know speaking with Brother James today, Ms. Stillwell spoke with him, and he definitely, wants to make that happen as well, going and out to the community and knocking on doors, and he's going to talk to the two of you, and ask if that's okay with you all. But we are trying every method we possibly can to get that word out. And suggestions, we would love those as well. Dr. Chapman?
It certainly needs to be put in our community first.
You know what, I was going to put it in there except for the date. We had to switch the date, so we were not going to make the cut on that. I talked to Veronica, but the 4th, it was too late to go in for the 4th, and then the hurricane supposedly was coming, and we had to move this. So we didn't have enough time to do the, but yes, ma'am, we will definitely be doing that.
Churches, community press.
Yes.
Okay.
Anything you can think of, please share. We will send it to them. And
Put it at
press.
Cook.
Oh, yeah. This is the first of 7 forums to start, but we will continue this. We're going to come back here, so this is not one and done. We will be back here. So what's taking place is we're going around in there's 7 board members, so we'll be doing this in 7 different districts throughout Lee County, so everybody is aware of what is taking place within the schools. So just that will be taking place. Yes, Ms. Shirley?
Okay, this time to me, I'm on the rap with it, can't get no sleep, because I'm here, honest, I don't sleep. So much going on in this, not right. When we talked on the phone, and I told you about James Stevens reopening up for middle school. We don't have a middle school, that's not fair. And I said, Mr. Buchanan makes a good head country. I said the kids will come, he knows us, we know him. You told me, oh no, we can't now come, when we get him there, that means a lot of kids gonna come to that school, and they can't do that, because you told me that they have to be integrated. School has to be integrated. And I said, yes, it still would work. And why you said that wasn't nice to say it. You should be glad that he can make a difference if we have a good school, and schools will progress, and kids will come. But you know that he has to be integrated, but we're gonna move him somewhere else. You put him to the juvenile place for head punishment for the first time. Juvenile.
Actually, he wanted that. From my understanding, he's okay with that. And I definitely did not say that he could not be there, because I don't make that decision on who goes there.
No, but you said if he goes there, when I said that school will be good, the grades will come up, the kids will be there, and it'll make a difference, will pull up. You told me, oh, you say, if that happens, you say, no, you say, if we do that, that means all the kids will go there, and the schools has to be integrated. That's what you told me.
We do have to have, we need to make sure, you and I had a conversation about.
And I thank you for speaking out with Dr.
Let
Chapman.
I did speak with Dr. Chapman as well.
Let me just, you mentioned Mr. Buchanan. I'll give you personally, I need to have strong principals everywhere, and that includes the assignment that I gave him, particularly that assignment. The thing about that assignment is it's not just the Department of Juvenile Justice, it's also, it's the PACE, it's Ben Smith Center. These are kids that really need a strong advocate. And you gotta have, because the way to a kid improving his or her life is through better education. And I'm gonna tell you, if I've been to all these facilities, and I'm gonna tell you, if you don't have strong educational advocates, someone who believes in the fact that they can turn it around, then you're going to have more failures there than successes. So you've got to have somebody who's strong, who's going to stand up for the kids. He's going to make them, make sure that they have facilities that are adequate. Because like in the case of DJJ, we don't own those facilities. Well, those kids, those are kids too. I don't care what you say, those are kids too. Those are kids that make mistakes, and they need to have be able to turn their life around, and they need somebody that believes in them, and that's why you got to have a strong person there. We need, principals are critically important, some of the most important decisions that we make. Now, as it relates to the whole middle school thing, that's not, again, we evaluate that whole decision based on population, and back when that decision was made, about right across the street from Jane Stevens, I can't go back and undo what happened there. But, moving forward, what we can do is make sure that we're investing in the schools that are here, and that's why we're here tonight to talk about what we're doing here, and quite honestly, what we've done at other schools. I mean, there was a nice rebuild project, I think, at Dunbar Community School. Dunbar High School is fantastic, and I'm telling you, you talk about amazing opportunities that you have there. So, and talk about a phenomenal principal in Carl Burnside, who's being recognized real soon. So,
We're all here trying to do the best we can do for every child.
I know we're taking questions, but
I do have.
Yeah, the cards were filled out first.
Yeah.
So we'll make sure we get to those, and then we'll come and get your questions.
I have two more, unless Mr. Morgan has more. Okay. One is security measures that will be included in the new Franklin Park other than a single building, which I know we can't discuss a lot of that because it is security.
Yes, but in general, actually, I don't know if you can flip through here a little bit, Jared, because we get to some of these other schools. But if you notice, like at James Stevens, here's some examples of some of the things that we're spending dollars on. And if you go to the next one, Colonial, and then the next one, Edgewood, and then you see the next one. You see that in every single one, the top priority for these buildings is actually investment in security. So part of that security, without getting into too specifics, first of all, you want to make sure that you have a single port of entry. So therefore, we make sure that all of our campuses, once the school closes and kids are in the building, it's closed down to one point of entry, and to get in, and if you're familiar with Franklin Park, you have to show your ID badge, or they have to recognize you before they buzz you into the front office. It's the only way to get in. The other thing that we do is you've got more secure perimeter fencing that we put in. So in some cases it's made to be higher. In other cases we spend more dollars making it more aesthetically pleasing so that it blends in better, looks better for the neighborhood while still keeping the school secure. We also are investing in technology for cameras. The cameras today are much better than the cameras that were put in even 5-10 years ago, because they can really, their resolution is much better. We're able to identify students that, some of our middle schools and high schools, fortunately it's not a big problem at elementaries, but where they'll do threats, or they'll go in the restroom and do something they shouldn't do. And with the cameras, you can actually identify who the students are and put a stop to it very quickly. And then, moving forward, another thing that is a problem, I'm going to tell you about it if you don't already know, I'm sure you probably do. Vaping is becoming a big problem, particularly with our young people, and it's getting down even into the elementary school level. And vaping is something that is very difficult for people to detect, and the technology continues to evolve. Well, the technology to detect vaping is also evolving, and so that is something that we can invest in our schools to notify administrators when something's going on so they can get right there and take care of the problem. Because I'm going to tell you what, vaping worries me a lot, because the concentration of this stuff is so strong. These kids get hooked at a very young age, and we've got to do everything we can to really stop this in its tracks. I think it's just criminal that the kids have access to this, so shame on the people that give them access to it. It's become a major problem across this nation, and Lee County is no different. But now we've at least got some technology options to help us improve security through the use of technology to stop that issue.
Okay, along with that, regarding the building, the questions came out to, will we keep the gym? And will the school district be purchasing more land to make a larger campus?
All right, the answer to the first question is that our goal is to keep the gym. We want to keep the gym. We are hoping the state agrees with us on that decision because it's not typical for a elementary school to have a gym, but we are willing to spend the money to build a gym at the school district. We just need to get the state to approve it. And then the second question, I'm not aware of any purchasing of additional property here to build more. Are you? And this is actually fairly large for an elementary school campus.
And then also with that, I think it's a comment, well, it says 2-story buildings, get rid of bushes at the school when you do the groundbreaking. So I'm not sure where the bushes are, so I guess we would look at where the bushes are, unless they were speaking of the trees between here and the back.
Well, when it comes, this is a security thing, we do, when we look at landscaping, security is something that we have to also take in consideration. So where we've seen prototypes like this done in the past, they can do some really nice landscaping in front of the building, but it's landscaping in such a way that keeps the building secure, so it doesn't cause hiding places and things like that. People can, hide out and stay on campus when they shouldn't be.
And then this is a question, it's probably for Mrs.
It's crazy
Freeman.
we have to think about these things, but unfortunately we do.
Yeah, we definitely have to. It's probably for Mrs. Freeman. It says, will there be PTA before or after school?
Before school and after school.
Before school and after school. Oh, PT.
PTA means for the parents. That's what I grew
Thank
up
you.
on.
So it's probably Mrs. Freeman.
So I'm gonna make sure I get your name after this, because you will be our president of the PTA. Yes, look, I will definitely be talking to you. Thank you so much for volunteering.
There you go, that's your point. Okay, and now we also have another question. It says, we have community outreach programs like Hoops on Missions joining us on a weekly basis. Thanks to the principal welcoming them. Will this continue to be an option with our current basketball facilities? And that again is another partnership.
Yeah, I would say absolutely. I mean, we depend on these partnerships moving forward. We really, I talked about pre-K. The other thing I think that we need to keep investing more in is programs for before school and after school. And then even in the summer. That's why Jared is heavily involved in the Support Our Students program, as are many of you in this room, which is a great program for our kids in the summertime. But we also need to do this before and after school, and there need to be things that are engaging for kids. Education shouldn't just stop when the school day stops. It needs to continue. And and sometimes kids don't have a lot of options when they're at the house, and we can provide them here. And I think that, again, it requires community partnerships. We were talking about this today, in fact, or yesterday. One of the solutions to a building with a traffic problem, which is a parent drop-off problem, was we just need to expand before school for that particular school so that parents can drop their kids off a little bit earlier and then provide them services as a result. But Hoops on a Mission is another great one, and I think the mission there is to really get kids involved and right on the right track while playing some basketball. So.
And the last card that I have says, is Early Head Start moving to James Stephens Academy?
I would like to see pre-K move to James Stephens Academy. We have some additional capacity there, and we have need in this community for pre-K. So, and it's not just James Stephens. We're looking at other places as well, because there are schools where we have some capacity, and then there are schools where we don't have any capacity. But the schools that have capacity, we certainly could move. In fact, the former principal there at that school, and I think the current principal, I'm talking to James Stephens now, would like to see a program there, pre-K program. Is that correct? Yes, okay. So, you know, we're advocates, and so we would like to see that happen. So that's something that's being worked on. And again, but the board has made it part of their strategic plan, so the board is totally behind expanding the number of pre-K and Head Start opportunities that we have in the school district.
Okay, that was the last card that we have. Is there anyone else who might have a question that we haven't answered?
I have a quick question. When you say that they're going to add additional pre-K units, which is what you said about the foundation, which once they start to create those foundational skills, then it starts to build and it carries over into kindergarten, first grade, second grade, all the way through the educational journey. So when you say you're going to add more pre-K, are you saying one more pre-K unit per elementary school, or try to match it with the kindergartners that are actually going into the classroom for that school?
That's a good question. I think the answer to that question depends on the capacity that the school has. Because our best case scenario would be to do a match. And one of the things that I've heard from the principals is that we need to make sure that when we're doing this, that it allows the principal to start to actually build their student population so that those pre-K kids have an opportunity to attend kindergarten, because that hasn't always been the case in the past. So ultimately, we would like, if we have capacity, to be able to do a nice match, at least very close. And then also in the student assignment process to say, you know what, if you come to Franklin Park's pre-K program, then you are going to be guaranteed a seat. Dominic doesn't like me to give out guarantees like that.
Thanks for my recording it.
But you'll be guaranteed a seat at Franklin Park Elementary, because we think that continuity is something that's beneficial for the kids. So that's really what we'd like to work toward.
Okay, we have another question over here.
Hi, yes, when you said that we have the county has the lowest scores for school readiness, what areas are you specifically speaking of?
Well, the number that I gave you was...
So that's the county, but I mean, like, specifically, is it this community, or where are the scores?
The number that I given was just for Lee County in total, so
Right.
I didn't get granular with it. What I could do, Michelle, if you remind me, is I can ask that question of Dr. Savage to see if he has any more specific information, because that's countywide. Yeah, that's countywide. We have a lot of need in our community. I mean, it's I think sometimes, I talk to a lot of different groups, and sometimes I'm thinking, people don't even realize, you live in a gated community and you don't get out much, and there's a lot more need in our community. The other thing that I didn't tell you is that in terms of the economic index, the economic need for our students, is one of the highest in the state of Florida. I mean, of the 40th largest school districts, we're at the low end of that when it comes to economic need. And now economic need is something that's not just poverty, it's a lot of other risk factors. The state puts that together. And so our kids live in, have a great need out there that's greater than what you see a lot of places across the state. So that's, again, something that we need to work with our community partners to improve that situation.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions?
The children in this community, do they have, as far as that school choice thing, do they have any priority as far as this school is? And will they continue to, or will they have that priority for this school after it's rebuilt, remodeled?
Yes, so two things, the priorities that you're given now, and then what I hope to be the priority moving forward into the future. So today, you have priority 1 preference if you are within 2 miles of the school, and then you have priority 2 preference if you're within 5 miles of the school. Look over the expert, make sure I don't get off on this one, get off on the wrong track. And then also, if you have a sibling at this school, you have sibling preference. The last thing, and this is again one of those things that they don't want me to talk about, I think I just got chastised for it today, but they're also, if you have a hardship or an unusual circumstance that allows you really need to be at Franklin Park Elementary and you didn't get that as your choice, there is a waiver process that you can do, and if you show I work in the area, I have a daycare issue, something like that, then we also consider hardship waiver. So proximity 2 mile, 1, proximity 5 mile, or sibling. Now, moving forward into the future, we are trying to we're in the process of developing a proximity-based student assignment system that would really take the current system and it would continue to, I think, allow kids to have choice, but allow kids to have choice within an area closer to their home. So they would be able to pick, maybe the top 5 or 6 schools around where they live. So this is a very complicated process, and we actually believe that we can achieve even greater educational equity than we have today, while still, and also reduce transportation ride times and transportation costs, and make sure that the quality of our schools is high everywhere a kid goes. So the first step in that was actually to get all of our schools with 0 DA schools. So all of the schools are A, B, C. And in fact, the majority of our schools are A and B now. Over 60% of them are A's and B's, the rest are C's. And that was step 1, because you have to make sure kids always have great choices. And then step 2 is really working on what that system would look like. So again, what it would do is that if a kid lived anywhere in the proximity of Franklin Park, that would be a high priority for that student. They would have a high preference to be able to attend that school.
Dr. Atkins, before you move on that note, is there any way to get the numbers of the kids that wanted to come to Franklin Park that were turned down to be at Franklin Park?
Yes, we can certainly provide that data if you want to talk about it. We meet with the NAACP on a quarterly basis, and this is an example of some of the things that we would talk about. So we'll be happy to get that if Lauren there she is. Okay, she's got it. So we'll make sure we have that in the room because that's a good question.
Well, my question is for the pre-K program. The thing about it is with pre-K, they were putting it on an income-based level. So then if the levels are low, as you say in Lee County, why is it based on an income level? Because then that means if someone does make above the amount for the kids to be able to go to pre-K, but we're seeing a significant drop, and when they're coming when they're coming into kindergarten, not knowing much, then wouldn't you think that they would take away the income? So that way then more kids would be able to be subjected to earlier learning? Dominic, do you want to take that?
The pre-K Head Start program is a federal program, so those guidelines aren't set by the school district, so they are set by the federal program. Our initiative for pre-K obviously is to grow that Head Start program. Unfortunately, they do have the rules that apply to the income at this point. What we can do in the future, we don't know, but right now those are the guidelines that we have to abide by.
We do have a group though that we're working with the Coalition of Southwest Florida on this initiative called Future Lee. And Future Lee, this again, the Southwest Florida Coalition and building community partnerships with the school district. We're trying to get to a point, and the dream, the vision is to provide pre-K education for any student in Lee County. So that's the dream, that's the goal of Future Lee. And so this is working with community partners to make that happen. And one of the things that we'll have to do to make that a reality is to lower those barriers like cost. Because cost for that is significant and an obstacle for people to be able to have access to it. So we have to work on knocking that down. So there is a group out there that the school district is working with to try to make that happen.
It doesn't have anything to do with pre-K. I'm just curious, during the blueprinting of the new building, will you make sure that it's strong enough to house a shelter? Or?
I don't know if, okay, good.
I'm glad that came up today because we did have that conversation with the DOE about the lack of shelters in Lee County. And that was another good point for us to get our school built as quick as we can and get it replaced with a hardened hurricane school. So great question.
Good, thank you. Yeah, because we were kind of faced with an issue here with this upcoming one, you know, when we had that near scare, because the generator at Dunbar High School had been apparently filled with the wrong type of fuel, so yeah, it wasn't working. But fortunately, we were able to get that thing fixed because we wouldn't have had anything in this area. But that's been corrected, and yes, we do need shelter space, and so wherever we're allowed to do it, you know, obviously we can't do it like out in Cape Coral. It's just, that's too low-lying region, too low-lying. But as you get further east, then we're able to build shelters.
Dr. Atkins, do you know why they call this area Safety Hill?
I do not.
Because it's one of the highest elevated areas in Southwest Florida. Right here in Dunbar.
Okay,
Is it really? All right. There you go. Then we should be able to harden this building.
Okay, there was one more question that was given to Mr. Morgan, and that it was kind of already answered. It was, could it be sooner redeveloped? And why do we have to wait 3 to 4 years when we still have buildings, when we're still building new schools? There again, it's because the state mandates when we can build. We don't have that control.
Yeah, it's the custody. You know, and basically what the custody does is he explained is it studies it, gives us a recommendation. Fortunately, our recommendation was that the person during the group doing the report recommended that we rebuild this building, so that's been submitted to the state. The state came down and walked through the process as he explained, so we are certainly hoping for a positive answer. And we think we'll get it. We're very positive about the outcome. No reason to think they won't agree with us.
We have time for one more question. I want to make sure that everybody gets out here on time because we gave you all the time and we know how valuable your time is.
Thank you. I've had the privilege of traveling from here to Ave Maria and then out to the Little Bell area. And I must tell you, there has to be hundreds of gated communities in this area. There's close to 600,000 more people in Lee County, but people here are kind of in a bubble. And we believe that Fort Myers is still a small town and all this stuff, but it is vast. It is huge. I've been in a few gated communities that have like 30 10-story apartment buildings in one community, combined with homes, townhomes, etc. So I don't know when you say that the average income is so low, because there are people, hundreds of thousands of people living here that maybe they retired here, maybe they moved from other states because homes aren't as expensive up north and they have better retirements, but they're living well. When I say well, I've seen a few homes size, whole community, custom built, size of football fields. So it's not, everybody's not poor here. I mean, the average income in Dunbar community is 35,000. I've heard, well, we've done our research on the Community Forum Foundation, and it's been stated 25,000, but if it says 35,000, that's fine, but it's still not enough for people in this community. They're not going to be able to get out to those nice schools that are being built out south, is what she's speaking of. And you have neighborhood schools. The district is saving millions of dollars when it comes to busing, but and we're bearing the brunt of the busing. But the types of schools that I've seen in the out south and other areas, they're very nice.
Yes.
And so I used to be a coach, and when I would take my students to those schools, I was her coach.
She's my coach. We just figured that, hey, I know you.
The students would say to me that they were poor, that our school was poor, and I was at Fort Myers Middle for 21 years. And I would try to tell them that they had good uniforms, they had equipment, they had everything that they needed. We were able to order it and get it, so, but they still felt poor probably because of the school in the area. And then, 90% of those kids in the school are free lunch, free and reduced lunch. And I would say that it doesn't matter about the income, it has to do with diversity. Because if everybody's in the same boat, I don't care what color they are, white, black, or Hispanic, they don't have the opportunity to know what it's like or to see different behaviors, different ways to live, act, or any of that. And so the school then has a behavioral problem when you have situations like that. So a lot has to be invested in those schools, and the schools with the small numbers don't get the budgets. They're always saying they don't have money, and so that's why these kids are always saying they're poor. So if, nobody wants to stop going to neighborhood schools, but you can't even get out of the neighborhood with the income gap because those homes have run from $200,000 to millions of dollars. And with the Community Forum Foundation, we're working, and I would hate to say fighting with the city, to make sure that when they come in and tear down Southwood Village and all these other projects, that people can afford to live in them, because they're getting ready to change the face of the neighborhood, but no one's gonna be able to afford to live there, and that's in this community. And so, if you're gonna build a nice school, we'll be building it for people, not for the people that's here, just like the city's not building all that housing, because 20,000 people are moving here per year, 1,000 a day, roughly. And so they're trying to build for that. And with apartments, a studio costing $1,300. And so we're gonna have to, like you said, you can't get anywhere without a good education, and that's what schools really, and parents need to focus on, education, so that we can start taking part and be able to live however we want to live and wherever we want to live. You don't have to be forced to live someplace that you can't afford to live anywhere else. And we do want good, modern schools here for our children and families.
Thank you for that. Dr. Atkins. Well, I really appreciate all of you coming out this evening. I do have my cards. If you'd like, I can give you my card if you have any questions that we did not answer this evening. If you'd like to email me, I can try to get the answers back to you as quickly as possible. But again, we will be back out, and I will be making sure that we send out information. We also have a diversity and inclusion newsletter that they just created as well. The first one just came out today. And so we are definitely working on making sure to disseminate the information to you. But again, thank you so much for being here. And Dr. Atkins, do you say anything?
Just thank you and have a wonderful evening. Thank you for
Thank
being
you,
here.
Ms. Freeman.